Hi from Salk Planetarium's satellite office. Yes, this is my telescope that I use for backyard astronomy. This is your last planetarium visit for 6th grade, and I want to say that I'm sorry we weren't together in the actual planetarium, but I hope you enjoyed your visits this year. Today's video is a little longer than usual because there's been a lot of things happening in space that I want to tell you about. It's about 20 minutes long, so if you want to pause it and take a break, that's fine, but don't forget to come back and watch the whole thing and take the quiz. Remember that ISS stands for the International Space Station. We have 3 new astronauts living up on the space station right now, and I want to show you how they got there. Expedition is the name of the mission given to each set of astronauts who live on the ISS. Did you know that people have lived on the ISS for the past 20 years? Not the same people. We're up to Expedition 63 right now. In the video, when the Soyuz spacecraft finally gets to the space station, look for the crosshair. That's the target that the ship's computer uses to stay on course and connect to the ISS. Stay safe at home and enjoy this video. It's out of sight.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Kayla LaFrance. As we count up to 20 years aboard the International Space Station, we reflect on a historic moment of adversity and triumph.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This week marks the 50th anniversary of the flight of Apollo 13. During that mission, flight controllers on the ground and the crew on board worked together to turn a life-threatening situation into what has been called a successful failure. This week on the orbiting laboratory, Russian cosmonaut Oleg Skripochka handed over command of the station to NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, who arrived on a Soyuz with his crewmates last week. Skripochka and crewmates NASA astronauts Jessica Meir and Andrew Morgan then said their farewells as the hatch was closed to their Soyuz MS-15 spacecraft. They undocked from the station to return home, bringing their Expedition 62 mission to an end. After the nearly 4-hour journey, the crew landed safely in Kazakhstan and were greeted by a recovery team before they parted ways to head off to their home nations. The next planned crewed flight to the space station, currently set for May, will be a special one, with the arrival of 2 NASA astronauts aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon. And if you look closely, you might see the return of an old friend. The retired NASA worm logo is making a comeback to help capture the excitement of a new modern era of human spaceflight. It will make an appearance on the side of the Falcon 9 launch vehicle that will ferry Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station as part of the Demo 2 flight, making the return of human spaceflight on American rockets from American soil. Keep sending in your questions using the hashtag AskNASA. And for more information on the incredible mission of Apollo 13, we invite you to download episode number 139 of Houston, We Have a Podcast, where you can hear the thoughts of crew members James Lovell and Fred Hayes about their fateful mission. We'll see you next week.
Well, it's a mild afternoon, a slight breeze over at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, and sitting atop the Soyuz booster, 160 feet high, is the next cruise set to launch to the International Space Station. They are NASA's Chris Cassidy and Roscosmos cosmonauts Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner, and they are set to blast off in just under an hour from now at 3:05 a.m. Central Time, 4:05 a.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S. This is going to be the first crewed launch on the new Soyuz 2.1A booster, launching from Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. In the Soyuz's right-hand seat for today's spaceflight is NASA astronaut and United States Navy Captain Chris Cassidy. Cassidy was selected for the 2004 NASA astronaut class and, to date, has 2 spaceflights and 6 spacewalks on his resume. He's also a decorated Navy SEAL and calls the city of York, Maine, his home. He was born in 1970 in Salem, Massachusetts, and later attended York High School in Maine. Cassidy holds degrees from several institutions, including a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from the United States Naval Academy and a Master of Science in Ocean Engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Cassidy served as a Navy SEAL for 11 years before being selected as an astronaut, deploying for a total of 4 times to areas in Afghanistan and the Mediterranean, and was awarded 2 Bronze Stars along with other military recognitions for his service. He became a Navy captain in 2014 and never wanted to back down from a challenge and completed the Ironman Triathlon in Hawaii that same year. As an astronaut, he made his first journey into space in July of 2009, launching from Cape Canaveral, Florida aboard the shuttle Endeavour. While there, he and the rest of the crew assembled the final parts of the Japanese experiment module, installed additional science experiments, and safely delivered and stored away parts and batteries for future use on the International Space Station. And this mission made Cassidy the 500th person in history to fly into space. Cassidy flew for the second time in 2013, and it was his first launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. He has logged 182 days in space and 31 hours and 14 minutes total spacewalking time over these 2 spaceflights. Back on Earth, he served as NASA's chief astronaut from 2015 to 2017 and was awarded the NASA Exceptional Achievement Medal. He will take over as the International Space Station commander next week when the current commander, Alex Krapochka, hands over the keys in the station's change of command ceremony. And he's obviously joined by 2 cosmonauts inside that Soyuz spacecraft, Anatoly Ivanishyn and Ivan Wagner. Let's take them.
I wish you successful launch and good luck, guys. You've done everything you could during your training. Everything's nominal on board. Everything's nominal with the launch vehicle. Everything's going to be nominal. And I, guys, wanted to ask you, please don't break anything on board. And the equipment will work well.
This was your day. You worked so hard to get here, and I hope everything goes absolutely perfectly. Enjoy every moment. Enjoy your new home station, and know that we are all here on the ground supporting you and welcoming you home in October. Take care.
Week checks and getting a chance to talk to a number of officials, among them Dmitry Rogozin, Sergei Krikalev, and NASA's Tricia Mack. The crew is ready to walk out. Again, maintaining the tradition one final time, declaring they're ready for launch, and then they're on their way to the bus, waving a thumbs up there from Chris Cassidy, and then they get on the ride to pad 31.
Interesting. Life for us in the pre-launch period is always in quarantine. So for me, I knew I was going to be in quarantine these 2 weeks. But what's really different is everybody else around us is in quarantine too, just like the rest of the world. And to see the impacts on that in terms of who from NASA can come over to support launch, even which the Russian operational support team will be much smaller. My family and launch guests will not be able to come, so it'll be a really, really skeletal crew there in the Baikonur Cosmodrome, which will be quite different.
And they were able to climb up those stairs, wave goodbye to the final well-wishers there at the pad, ride the elevator up to the top of the Soyuz to board the capsule, and as of this moment, they've been on board for about 2 hours. In fact, just before we came on the air, At about 1:53 a.m., they were getting ready to step through their leak checks on their spacesuits. About 5 minutes later, reported that they had completed all the leak checks on the hatches of the Soyuz spacecraft, and the crew kicked off those leak checks, closing their visors and pressurizing their suits. And we'll be getting a couple of views inside the cabin. All right, and we're back at the launch pad now. You can see the gantry arms beginning to pull back that service structure, providing access to the rocket itself. One of the final tasks down there at the pad before we're ready for launch. And this is some video from, again, earlier this week on Monday. The Soyuz going out business end first from the integration and mating facility, and it's a much shorter path than you might have seen from previous launches that went from pad number 1, Gagarin's start, as we are again using pad 31 this time for the first time since a crew including astronaut Shane Kimbrough launched from it back in October of 2016. The Soyuz itself sits high above the 3 stages of that Soyuz booster, which uses kerosene, a highly refined version of kerosene, commonly referred to as rocket fuel, and liquid oxygen as the propellant. The first stage itself has 4 liquid engines that are strapped to the side of the core vehicle. Each one of those is going to burn for about 1 minute and 58 seconds before they drop away.
The space station is much bigger than people think. You know, when you tell people that I'm going to go live in space, they're picturing this tiny thing where you've got to turn your shoulders, excuse me, to pass each other in the hallway like a cramped submarine. But it's big. And you can spend a whole day and never see a crewmate except for maybe a meal. The other thing people don't realize, it's a machine, just like your car or your house or your air conditioner. It's gonna break, and stuff does. It's just the nature of machinery. Because people sometimes, what, it broke? What do you mean NASA has a thing that's broken in space? Well, yeah, it's a machine. It's gonna break, and that's what we need to do, is keep it running. At the end of the day, there's several things in a mission that requires a person to turn a wrench and fix it. That anniversary is kind of special to me in the sense that Bill Shepard was the commander of Expedition 1, United States Navy SEAL, and I will be the commander of Expedition 63, 20 years later, a United States Navy SEAL. So there's been 3 of us, Shep, myself, and now Johnny Kim, who have come from the SEAL community to be astronauts, and I think it's really pretty cool that there's the bookends of the 20 years of station will be commanded by Shep and myself. What am I looking forward to most on this mission? This is my 3rd one, and I am going into it with the mindset of I'm going to cherish every single day that I'm there, because it might be the last days that I get to look out the cupola window and see Earth. So I'm really looking forward to appreciating every one of those days. I'll be happy to get back to Earth, to be with my family, but I'm really looking forward to valuing each of those days while I'm there. I'm astronaut Chris Cassidy. Thanks for being part of Expedition 63.
Times here today, spaceflight, it's all about traditions, and in keeping with that, every single expedition mission, just like every NASA program, every crew is given their very own patch with a unique design that helps to commemorate their mission and their crew members. And this is a look at the Expedition 63 patch. It's definitely one of my personal favorites. It's a very cool, interesting looking one. It's an intersection of both the past and the beginning of a new dawn in human spaceflight. As we not only continue to stay on board the station, we're about to commemorate 20 years of continuous flight, but also look at putting humans once more on the moon, and then getting ready to not too far after, head on to Mars. 13 of the stars in the patch along the top commemorate the Apollo 13th, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary during Expedition 63. And then that swoosh orbiting around the Earth and the Moon honors the Apollo program and future missions that will go beyond low Earth orbit once again. Then the atom is the crew's call sign, symbolizing the energy to resolve or orbit around a nucleus, or in their case, planet Earth. And another tradition that the astronauts and cosmonauts like to take part in is selecting what's known as a zero-G indicator to hang above them in the ceiling of the capsule. So we'll see this floating just above the center seat for Anatoly Ivanishin. Sometimes each crew member has their own. For this one in particular, the Anatoly Ivanishin is taking what he's just calling Space Bear. It's a toy that will become very symbolic for him and is going to be a significant gift for his future grandchildren one day. So that'll be hanging inside the Soyuz capsule when we get those in-cabin views, and it's called a zero-G indicator, and we literally use that just to see when you start to see that float, and that happens right after they separate from that third stage. You'll see the crew exposed to microgravity. That'll be one of your best indications, because the crew themselves, obviously strapped into those seats, won't be floating around quite yet. Here's a view of Chris Cassidy. Again, he's in the right seat today. This is going to be his third trip into outer space. We heard the crew call that their visors are closed, and you can see them there in their seats. Ivanishin reporting everything nominal or normal on board the spacecraft, and they are ready for launch. We're going to see the boosters at the bottom light up, and as their thrust builds, it'll eventually overcome
Main one.
and liftoff. Cassidy, Ivanishin, and Wagner on their way to the International Space Station.
Seconds into flight, all parameters are nominal. We confirm on board, all parameters are nominal. 20 seconds into launch, thrusters are working nominally. The crew is feeling fine. 30 seconds. All parameters for the vehicle are nominal. The crew is feeling fine. 40 seconds into.
Getting good continuous calls from the crew and the ground, everything with the vehicle looking nominal. The first stage powering the Soyuz upward, delivering 930,000 pounds of thrust from the 4 strap-on boosters and that single core engine. Soyuz continuing to retreat from view, already traveling well in excess of 1,100 miles per hour.
We confirm.
And seeing the Koryoff cross there as those strap-on boosters separate, the first stage separating right on time.
We also confirm lateral unit separation.
Their job done. They drop weight at an altitude of about 28 statute miles. The Soyuz traveling at about 3,300 miles an hour.
Vehicle stabilization is nominal. Everything's fine on board.
And with the first stage in the launch escape tower now jettisoned, being powered by that second stage, the core stage.
We confirm the jettisoning of the
The shroud jettison, and getting some views now from the Soyuz spacecraft itself, looking back towards the Soyuz rocket. You have a solar array right in front of your view there.
We confirm separation of stage 2. We see it as well. Everything's nominal on board. Copy.
And we have confirmation second stage shut down and separated, and you saw a piece fly off. That was the third stage's lower skirt jettison. So right now the Soyuz being propelled into orbit by the single engine of the third stage, providing 67,000 pounds of thrust, going to continue to burn until shut down. And we just passed 7 minutes and 30 seconds into this flight.
450.
Spacecraft velocity right around 13,500 miles an hour.
Your pitch and roll are all nominal. Get ready for the stage separation.
So we'll see the engines cut off, and once the vehicle separates, it usually gives the crew a bit of a jolt. Then the Soyuz will be flying free. We see the third stage separating there. And we can see it dropping away now. Third stage separation confirmed.
And congratulations, guys. You are in orbit. I am handing you over to the Mission Control, Moscow.
And there we have a great view of the Soyuz MS-16 continuing its approach to the station. This is a camera looking from the bottom down back towards planet Earth. Soyuz is going to continue to approach at this angle and eventually execute a fly-around maneuver once it gets about 400 meters away from the station. And confirmation the fly-around has begun, so we're going to see the Soyuz spacecraft begin to swing its way from the bottom over top of the International Space Station.
The range is from 370, the rate is 1.1, copy.
As of right now, the Soyuz spacecraft on final approach.
Visual 15 meters visually, rate 0.1. 10 meters. Rate is 0.1. Contact confirmed. Hooks engaged at 17:13:21. Copy.
And docking confirmed, 9:13 a.m. Central Time, 10:13 a.m. Eastern Time, 14:13 GMT, as the station was flying just about 260 statute miles over the northern Atlantic.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Leah Cheshire. This week, the crew on the space station witnessed Earth Day from the best seat in the solar system. On April 22nd, we observed the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. The world marked the first Earth Day in 1970, and this year, many of us participated from home. As we looked out our windows at our home planet, 3 people living on the space station had the same opportunity, but from 250 miles above. Listen in as NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, who is on his 3rd space flight, talks about Earth Day from the International Space Station.
I'm really thinking about how Earth is a spaceship for all of us, and whether it's a pandemic or climate impacts, we need to take care of it. Like Anatoly, Ivan, and myself, we're taking care of the International Space Station right now. Just like all of the people on Earth need to do their job, do their part to keep Earth healthy.
The space station has seen a lot of traffic recently, and there's no sign of that slowing down anytime soon. On Friday, April 24th at 9:51 p.m. Eastern Time, the Progress 75 spacecraft is scheduled to launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, arriving just a few hours later at 1:12 a.m. Eastern Time. This Russian resupply craft will deliver about 2.78 tons of food, fuel, and other supplies, and will remain at the station until early December. We're looking forward to May 27th and NASA's SpaceX DM-2 commercial crew mission, the first launch of astronauts from American soil since conclusion of the Space Shuttle program in 2011. Join us live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on May 1st for a trio of news briefings, during which you can learn more about the mission and its crew. Keep sending in your questions using the hashtag AskNASA. We'll see you next week.